The year is 1999, and I'm working for a local internet company. I just do support for dial-up internet. This is back in the day with the modems, the 56K modems, um, and I'm on the phone with a client, and Jenny sends me like an e-card. I don't know if e-cards are done much anymore these days, but back in the day, um, instead of sending someone a card, e-cards were like all the rave. And she'd sent me this e-card, and it was like a stork, carrying a baby. Um, and I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like a surprise is coming, or something along those lines. And of course, I knew what it meant. She was trying to tell me that she was pregnant. And I'll never forget, I was on the phone, with this client, and I'm like, okay, ma'am, so to reset your modem, you type AT and F1, or let's try ATZ. And there's these codes to reset these modems, and this whoosh, this e-card pop. You've got mail. Well, it wasn't AOL, but you get the gist. And this thing flashes across my screen, and I see the stork and the baby, and something's coming, and I'm just like, I'm stunned. I'm at a complete loss for words. This woman on the phone, she's like, "Hello." She's like, "Are you still there?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm still here." Um, and she's like, "Is everything okay?" She could tell something was going on. And I said, "I think I'm gonna be a dad." And she screamed. She's like, "Oh my god!" Like all celebratory. And she's like, and I said, "Ma'am, I don't think I can concentrate to finish this. Can I call you back in a few minutes?" And she's like, "Oh my god, of course, yes, go call her, and I'm so happy for you, but call me back." And that's how I got the news that Gavin was coming into the world. Of course, we didn't know his name would be Gavin yet. And in the months that followed, like I think many people, we weren't married yet, and so began the search for uh, the right thing to do. Um, and we didn't have any money. I couldn't even afford a decent engagement ring. And so my mom procured this ring that I think used to belong to Sherry, her sister. And it was a diamond ring, and it had a little leaf on it, and Jenny was very fond of nature. One of our first dates together was going to the UW Arboretum, and she was like identifying trees. And I'm like, I think I'm a nerd, but I mean, man, that's a tree nerd is a special kind of nerd. So, anyway, I thought, well, wow, how appropriate, this ring with this leaf. And there was a small part of me that was like, well, it feels weird to give someone a ring that was someone else's. Like, is this a symbol of someone else's love? But I took it, and I gave it to her, and I asked her, and I even told her, where the ring was from, because I was like, hey, I can't afford one. And, I don't know what was going through her mind, but she accepted it. She accepted me and the flaw, and everything. And she took the ring, and, she put it on, and I'm like, will you marry me? And of course I will. And, it was this great moment. And then our wedding was that June, and we were trying to figure out where to have it and what to do. And um, my family stepped up big time, and they offered to have it at Sherry's place where she was living. And it was this beautiful outdoor ceremony with all the people that were in our lives at the time. And um, I wrote this song for the wedding, and we're kind of out in like farm fields. And one of the lines in the song was like, now here we are taking our vows, surrounded by all the people we know and love, and Jack's neighbors' cows. It was a cute but fitting. And the chorus was, all I can do is love you. All I can do is love you. it was just a really simple, sweet, song, and um, it was it was just great. It was a beautiful ceremony. It was outside. It was hot as heck. I told all the guys to take off their jackets, and um, JL Richards, the butcher from Oregon, catered. They did a pig roast, and the food was wonderful. We had a big tent set up, and I think we ended up playing like a game of softball. Like all right there. It happened all right there outside of this beautiful, home of Jack and Sherry. And so that was June 5th, and then um, in November, uh, you know, Gavin was due. Gavin was due, I think, like in late October. And I remember kind of arguing with the doctor a little bit because they were kind of giving us like timelines and like, well, if she doesn't, you know, go into labor by such and such a date, then we'll induce labor. And, I was like, I remember talking to the doctor and I'm like, hey, you said this and then you said you were going to induce, but we haven't. And because Jenny, obviously as you get closer, she's going through a lot of pain and like the contractions, they're strong. And of course, we're all new at this. So the first tiniest contraction is like a huge deal. And like, oh my God, here comes the baby, even though it's not. And so I was like all over this doctor about like, hey, you said this and you said that, and you're going to induce. And I'll never forget what he said to me because he's like, Chris, he's like, having a baby, and as the baby's in the womb and developing, he's like, I want you to understand this isn't like baking a cake. That was the analogy he used. It's not like baking a cake. When it's ready, it's ready. It's time. And it really stuck with me because I'm like, okay, I'm not a professional, obviously, and I was just super nervous and overprotective, husband. And when we got in there, her water broke, or no, her contractions were starting to get really close, and we called the nurse and like, yep, you should probably come in. So we drove down, and her water broke while we were there. So everything seemed to be going according to plan, and we had done the birthing classes and everything. So I'm trying to help her with the breathing, and then they come in and they're like, there are two things they can give you. There's some, and I forget what the first one's called. Excuse me. It's there's a thing they can give you to kind of take the edge off, but apparently it's not that strong. Or they can do an epidural, which is like you tap into the spine and you give a medication that completely numbs everything, like waist down. And there are complications with that because it's harder in some ways for a woman to give birth because they lose all that feeling down there, and so I'll never forget. She was like, yeah, I'll just take you know, at first she's like, I don't want anything. And then she's like, I'll take the first thing. And then it was like the contractions really starting. She's like, okay, oh my God, give me the epidural. I need it right now. And I remember we were cutting it really close to the time when they weren't going to be able to do it anymore. But thankfully, they were able to get it in and do it. And I'll never forget, she was in so much, pain. And I'm trying to do all this breathing and shit with her. And, she's just like, I don't want to hear from you. I was like, okay. And it's kind of quietly just kind of step aside and, let the professionals, do their thing. And then Gavin, I forget the term. It's not breech. It wasn't butt first, but his face was the wrong way. I don't know, supposed to be up or down, whatever it was supposed to be. He was facing the wrong way. And so that was putting a lot of pressure on her, like her pelvic bone. But, they, and of course, by this time I'm like telling everybody that we're down in the hospital and, the birth is imminent. And like, I remember, I'll never forget, when your wife is in labor, different people have different reactions. For me, the whole world and all like the normal rules and etiquette, they kind of melted away. So my wife is like in the delivery room, like her legs up in stirrups, you know, all of her private parts just completely exposed to the entire world. Like even though there was a sheet over her, like her knees are like holding it up so you can, if you walk in the room, you can see everything. And of course I'm like, yeah, come on in, man, it's about to happen. And like I invite my mom and my aunt in, and they're like, oh God, Christopher, you know because I just completely whatever, like I said, all the rules melted away. And but yeah, Gavin, he was born, and I got to cut the umbilical cord, and they everything went really well. He latched on for the breastfeeding and everything, and things, it was very good, and it worked very well. Um, and then I'll never forget the ride home. There's nothing like having a completely newborn creature that you are 100% responsible for anything that can happen to it. And I had no idea how delicate or tough like a baby is, And I mean, the thing is cocooned in like 9 layers of blankets. It's like in a coat. This is November 3rd, 99. So like it ain't going anywhere. You could have dropped it from the top of a building, and it would have like absorbed the impact, right? But I didn't know that. Okay. And so we're in the car, and like it's like a 70-mile-an-hour stretch from Madison to our house. There's a highway, and it's 70, and I'm doing 35 in the car. Like that's how. And Jen, I'll never forget the look on Jenny's face, because she was just laughing at me, and I was like, I wasn't nervous. I was just going slow, trying to be careful. Had the hazard lights on. I'm rolling the window down and sticking my arm out the window, like waving people around me. It was hilarious, and but I'll never forget, when we were picking names, Jenny really liked the name Gavin, and I didn't know anything about the name Gavin. And so, you get on the name websites and you look it up, and it means white hawk in Welsh. And not that we're Welsh, but I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. White hawk. Yeah. All right. Neat. And, on the way home, we saw a white hawk in the trees. Dane County is popular for, all kinds of birds, but I just thought it was very, very cool that, his name, he's born, the day he's born, on the ride home, we see this white hawk. And what a wonderful memory.